Now there's something else in Hebrews 10 that you need to give close attention to. And it's in verse 23. I'll read it again. This is what the Apostle Paul said. Let us hold fast the public declaration of our hope without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. Who promised? Jesus Christ. And what is involved here for the Christian? A public declaration. So in other words, the baptism needs to be made in public with witnesses, other people who hear your declaration. And so, what are you declaring? Certainly, one would hope that you're declaring your vows. You are publicly announcing that you agree with and want to be a part of the arrangement that Jesus Christ inaugurated with his blood. And so you need to publicly declare vows. Now I'd like to make a parallel to a person's marriage arrangement, because this is very similar. When a man and woman get married, they do it in public. Their names, the name of the man and the woman, are announced, and their vows are publicly declared in front of witnesses. And those witnesses are the people invited to the marriage arrangement. However, when the marriage is conducted with a priest, the priest conducting that marriage also asks for God's blessing on the marriage. And so God becomes a witness to the public declaration that a husband and wife make to each other. They make vows and enter into a covenant arrangement between each other and God in front of witnesses. So this public declaration mentioned in Hebrews chapter 10 by the Apostle Paul is very similar to the covenant arrangement that a husband and wife make in front of witnesses, publicly declaring their vows. Think carefully about this. A public declaration needs to be made in order to gain entry to the holy place, the temple. So now I'd like to back up a few verses in Hebrews chapter 10 and tell you what the Apostle Paul said immediately before describing the way of entry into the holy place. So I'm going to start in verse 14, and I'll read up to verse 16. So here we go. This is what the Apostle Paul said immediately before describing the way of entry into the holy place. For it is by one sacrificial offering, he's talking about Jesus Christ here and his crucifixion. It is by one sacrificial offering that he has made those who are being sanctified perfect perpetually. Moreover, the Holy Spirit also bears witness to us, for after it has said, "This is the covenant that I shall covenant towards them after those days, says Jehovah." And so what the Apostle Paul is explaining to the Hebrews, that the Holy Spirit helped him understand the covenant arrangement that Jesus Christ inaugurated. And so the baptism is a covenant, an agreement that Jesus Christ made possible. And so it's very similar to a man and woman's marriage covenant, their vows. And a Christian who's well read in the Bible scriptures knows that the sons of Jacob, the anointed ones, are often referred to as the bride of Christ. And so, drawing parallels to a marriage covenant is a righteous thing to do here in regard to the baptism that Jesus Christ made possible through his crucifixion. Think very carefully, please, about these things. Now it's a good time to do a recap again with those scriptures in Daniel which talk about the constant feature and the transgression which causes desolation. So, if you've understood the arrangement that Jesus Christ inaugurated for the entire world, then how important do you think that is? It's very important. It is an essential feature of a Christian person's worship. Without it, nothing else spiritually exists. It's necessary. It's a feature that needs to be constantly maintained in order for it to be valid. So imagine if this feature was somehow invalidated or removed. So can you begin to see the parallels to Daniel and what he said about a constant feature? It's a very important constant feature, and I hope you understand that without it, we are doomed. This is very important for a Christian to understand. And you don't want to have anyone mess with this constant feature of Christian worship. Absolutely necessary feature that Jesus Christ died in order to inaugurate. Think carefully about these things. Now, in a marriage arrangement, one of the most important things for a person to understand is who it is that is entering into the arrangement. And so the names of the husband and wife need to be announced. The names of the parties entering into the covenant, the arrangement, need to be stated in order for the marriage contract or covenant arrangement to be valid. Otherwise, if those names are not announced, then who is it that's entering into this agreement? So this is a very necessary part of the public declaration that's to be done in front of witnesses.